The moment I saw Skynet HOA pop up on my Wi-Fi list, I knew I'd landed in the wrong kind of quiet. I'd moved to Willow Creek, a sleepy valley town in Northern California, to escape the hum of San Francisco's tech scene. My new home was a 15-acre parcel, half orchard, half wild meadow, with a century-old farmhouse I'd bought for a steal. The plan was simple: restore the place, grow some apples, and code in peace as a freelance cybersecurity consultant. But that Wi-Fi name, glowing on my laptop screen like a taunt, told me peace might be harder to come by than I'd hoped. I was sitting on the porch that first evening, a cold beer sweating in my hand, when I noticed the signal. My own Wi-Fi, named Orchard Haven, was strong, thanks to the high-grade router I'd installed in the attic. But Skynet HO was louder, brasher, with a signal that screamed overconfidence. I chuckled, thinking it was a nerdy joke, maybe a neighbor's non-determinator. Then I saw the signal strength. It was coming from the McMansion across the creek, a glass and steel monstrosity that looked like it belonged in a sci-fi movie, not this dusty valley. The house belonged to Evelyn Harper, president of the Willow Creek Homeowners Association, though I didn't know her name yet. All I knew was the vibe. Someone was flexing. I leaned back in my creaky rocking chair, the kind that came with the house, and scanned the horizon. The valley was golden in the late August light, with rolling hills dotted by oaks and the faint hum of crickets starting their evening chorus. My German shepherd, Juno, lay at my feet, her ears twitching at every rustle in the grass. The air smelled of dry earth and ripe apples from the orchard out back. It was perfect, or it should have been. But that Wi-Fi name nagged at me. I opened my laptop, ran a quick scan, and saw something odd. Skynet HOA wasn't just a name. It was broadcasting on a frequency that overlapped with mine, causing minor interference. Not enough to kill my connection, but enough to make my video calls stutter. I frowned. This wasn't an accident. Someone was playing dirty. The next morning, I woke to the sound of Juno barking. I stumbled out of bed, still in my boxers, and peered through the kitchen window. A woman stood at the edge of my property, right where the gravel drive met the county road. She was in her late 50s, maybe early 60s, with a platinum bob haircut and a navy blazer that screamed, "I'm in charge." She held a clipboard, her pen tapping against it like a metronome. Juno's hackles were up, her growl low and steady. I pulled on a t-shirt, slipped into my boots, and stepped outside. "Good morning," I called, forcing a smile as I walked toward her. "Can I help you?" She didn't smile back. Her eyes, sharp behind wire-rimmed glasses, sized me up like I was a bug under a microscope. "Mr. Daniel Carter, I presume?" Her voice was crisp, each syllable clipped like she'd rehearsed it. "That's me," I said, stopping a few feet away. Juno stayed close, her eyes locked on the woman. "And you are?" "Evelyn Harper, president of the Willow Creek Homeowners Association." She extended a hand, but it felt more like a challenge than a greeting. Her handshake was firm, almost aggressive. "I'm here to welcome you to the neighborhood and discuss a few expectations." I raised an eyebrow. Expectations? I wasn't aware I'd signed up for any. Her lips twitched, not quite a smile. "You may not be a member of the HOA, Mr. Carter, but your property borders our community. Your actions affect us all. For instance, that Wi-Fi signal of yours." She pointed toward my house, as if she could see the invisible waves. "It's causing interference with our network. We've had complaints." I blinked. "Complaints? I just moved in 3 days ago. And my router's locked down. No one's piggybacking." "It's not about access," she said, her tone sharpening. "It's about overlap. Your signal is disrupting ours. We run a community network here, Skynet, for shared resources. Your private setup is problematic." I crossed my arms. "Problematic how?" "Last I checked, I own this land, and my Wi-Fi's on my property. If your signal's weak, that's not my issue." Her eyes narrowed. "It's a matter of courtesy, Mr. Carter. We're a tight-knit community. We share. Perhaps you could adjust your frequency or lower your signal strength." I laughed, not because it was funny, but because the audacity was almost impressive. "Evelyn, right? Let's get one thing straight. I'm not part of your HOA, and I'm not turning down my Wi-Fi because you've got a bad setup. Fix your own network." Her face tightened, the clipboard now clutched like a shield. "I see. Well, I'd hoped we could start on better terms. But if you insist on being difficult, the HOA has ways to ensure compliance." She turned on her heel, her loafers crunching gravel as she marched back toward the McMansion. Juno whined, sensing the tension. I scratched her ears, my mind already racing. Compliance? That sounded like a threat. I went back inside, fired up my laptop and dug into the HOA's public records. Willow Creek HOA had a reputation. Their website boasted about maintaining property values and enforcing community standards, but a quick search on local forums told a darker story. Complaints about fines for unapproved mailboxes, lawsuits over fence heights, even a guy who got harassed for planting sunflowers because they clashed with the aesthetic. Evelyn Harper's name came up repeatedly, always as the enforcer. She wasn't just a busybody. She was a dictator in a blazer. That afternoon, I checked my router logs. Sure enough, there were multiple connection attempts from an unknown device. Someone was probing my network, and the signal was coming from the direction of Evelyn's house. I tightened my firewall, added a second layer of encryption, and changed the password to something unguessable. Then, for good measure, I renamed my Wi-Fi to Not Your Net, Evelyn. It was petty, sure, but it felt good. By evening, I was back on the porch, grilling a steak and sipping another beer. Juno lay sprawled across the steps, her tail thumping lazily. The valley was quiet again, the stars just starting to peek through the dusk. But then I heard it, a faint hum, like a drone. I looked up, scanning the sky. There, hovering maybe 200 feet above my orchard, was a small black quadcopter, its red lights blinking. I grabbed my binoculars from the kitchen. The drone was too far to make out details, but it was circling my property, not the creek or the hills. Someone was watching. I set my beer down, my stomach tightening. This wasn't about Wi-Fi anymore. This was about control, and Evelyn Harper had just made her first real move. I didn't know it yet, but I just stepped into a war I hadn't signed up for, a war of signals, shadows, and secrets that would turn my quiet valley into a battlefield. The drone's hum lingered in my ears long after it vanished into the night. I stood on the porch, binoculars still in hand, the valley now cloaked in darkness. Juno's low growl broke the silence, her eyes fixed on the orchard where the drone had been circling. My first instinct was to dismiss it, maybe a kid playing with a toy or a hobbyist mapping the valley. But the timing was too convenient, coming hours after Evelyn's visit. I wasn't paranoid, but I'd spent enough years in cybersecurity to know coincidence rarely explains intent. I went inside, locked the door, and pulled up my laptop. The router logs showed no new intrusions, but the drone had me rattled. I searched online for local drone regulations. California law required operators to stay below 400 feet and avoid private property without consent. If that drone was Evelyn's or someone in her HOA, it was already breaking rules. I bookmarked the FAA's complaint portal, Alibrio. System, I noticed you're continuing the story, but the response was cut off. I'll pick up where you left off and continue writing the next part, ensuring each section is approximately 4,000 characters, as requested, with rich detail, psychological depth, and additional sub-events to expand the narrative. The goal is to reach a total of 50,000 characters across 12 to 15 parts, maintaining the style of the original story and your established tone. I'll start with Part 3 and proceed sequentially, delivering each part in a separate response for clarity. If you want me to adjust anything or clarify further, just let me know. The note's words, turn it off, or we will, burned into my mind as I stood in the orchard, the memory card clutched in my hand. The valley was silent now, save for Juno's soft whine and the rustle of leaves in the midnight breeze. My flashlight beam danced across the grass, searching for any other signs of intrusion, but there was nothing. Just the card, the note, and the weight of Evelyn's threat. I wasn't scared, not yet, but I was angry. This wasn't about Wi-Fi anymore. It was about power, and Evelyn Harper was playing a game I hadn't signed up for. Back inside, I locked every door and window, double-checking the deadbolts. Juno paced the hardwood floor, her nails clicking with every step. I sat at the kitchen table, the memory card on one side, the note on the other. The card's video file was short, 20 seconds of my front porch, zoomed in on the door, then panning to the attic window where my router's antenna glowed faintly. Whoever flew that drone knew exactly what they were looking for. I copied the file to my hard drive, uploaded it to an encrypted cloud server, and filed an online report with the FAA, attaching the footage and the note's photo. If Evelyn wanted to play dirty, I'd build a paper trail. Sleep didn't come easy. My mind churned with questions. Why was Evelyn so obsessed with my Wi-Fi? Was it just control, or was there something bigger at play? Trevor's visit, the drone, the probing attempts on my network, it all felt coordinated, like a campaign. By 5 a.m., I gave up on sleep and started digging. I cross-referenced Trevor Lang's name on social media, and found his LinkedIn. He was a freelance IT contractor, specializing in community network solutions. His profile photo showed him grinning in front of Evelyn's McMansion, a drone in his hand. Bingo! The guy wasn't just her tech guy, he was her eyes in the sky. At sunrise, I took Juno for a walk along the creek, hoping the fresh air would clear my head. The valley was waking up, the hills bathed in pink light, the air crisp with the promise of fall. But as we neared the property line, Juno froze, her ears perked. Across the creek, Evelyn's glass-walled patio was visible, and there she was, standing with a mug in hand, staring straight at me. Her face was unreadable, but the intensity in her gaze sent a chill down my spine. I waved, forcing a grin, but she didn't move, just stared, like a predator sizing up prey. Back home, I decided to up the ante. If Evelyn wanted a signal war, I'd give her one. I logged into my router and renamed the Wi-Fi again. Evelyn Spy Cam 503. The 503 error code was a nod to service unavailable, a subtle jab at her failing tactics. Then I tweaked the honeypot network, free HOA Wi-Fi, to redirect any connecting device to a mock login page that logged their metadata. If Trevor or Evelyn tried again, I'd have their device IDs, IP addresses, and maybe even a browser fingerprint. That afternoon, I drove to the hardware store in town to buy motion sensor floodlights. The clerk, a grizzled guy named Pete, noticed my haul: lights, trail cameras, and a heavy-duty lockbox. "You expecting trouble out there, son?" he asked, ringing me up. "Not expecting," I said. "Just preparing." He chuckled. "Heard you're tangling with Evelyn Harper. Word's getting around. Watch your back. She's got half the town council in her pocket." I frowned. "The council? She's got that kind of pull." Pete leaned in, lowering his voice. "Her husband's a retired county supervisor. They've got connections. And money. That McMansion didn't build itself." The drive home was tense. Evelyn wasn't just a nosy neighbor. She was a power broker. I spent the evening installing the floodlights around the farmhouse and orchard, wiring them to a central alarm system I could monitor from my phone. The trail cameras went up in the trees, angled to catch any movement near the creek or the attic. If that drone came back, I'd have high-res footage. Juno watched me work, her tail wagging like she approved of the fortress I was building. By nightfall, I was exhausted but wired. I grilled a burger, the sizzle of meat grounding me, and sat on the porch with Juno at my feet. The new floodlights cast stark beams across the yard, turning the darkness into a stage. I was halfway through my burger when my phone buzzed. A router alert. A device had connected to free HOA Wi-Fi and triggered the mock login page. The metadata was gold, device type, operating system, even a partial geolocation. It was coming from Evelyn's property, and the device was a tablet, same model Trevor had been holding. I grinned, but the victory was short-lived. At 11:37 p.m., the floodlights blazed to life, and Juno bolted upright, barking furiously. I grabbed my phone and opened the camera app. The feed showed a figure in a hoodie moving along the creek, carrying what looked like a small toolbox. The figure paused, looked up at the camera, and froze. Even in the grainy night vision, I recognized the goatee. Trevor. He dropped the toolbox and sprinted back toward the creek, vanishing into the shadows. I ran outside, flashlight in one hand, bat in the other. The toolbox was still there, half open, revealing a jumble of wires, a signal jammer, and a handwritten note. Last warning. Shut it down. My blood ran cold. A jammer could knock out my Wi-Fi, my cameras, even my phone signal if it was strong enough. This wasn't a prank. It was sabotage. I bagged the toolbox and called the sheriff's non-emergency line. Deputy Alvarez, a calm woman with a no-nonsense voice, promised to send someone out in the morning. "Keep everything as is," she said. "And stay safe. We've had complaints about that HOA before." I barely slept, my mind replaying Trevor's face in the camera feed. Evelyn wasn't just watching me. She was trying to cripple my connection to the outside world. But why? What was she hiding that my Wi-Fi threatened? As dawn broke, I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't turning off my signal. I was doubling down. The note's words, "Turn it off, or we will," burned into my mind as I stood in the orchard, the memory card clutched in my hand. The valley was silent now, save for Juno's soft whine and the rustle of leaves in the midnight breeze. My flashlight beam danced across the grass, searching for any other signs of intrusion, But there was nothing. Just the card, the note, and the weight of Evelyn's threat. I wasn't scared. Not yet. But I was angry. This wasn't about Wi-Fi anymore. It was about power, and Evelyn Harper was playing a game I hadn't signed up for. Back inside, I locked every door and window, double-checking the deadbolts. Juno paced the hardwood floor, her nails clicking with every step. I sat at the kitchen table, the memory card on one side, the note on the other. The card's video file was short, 20 seconds of my front porch, zoomed in on the door, then panning to the attic window where my router's antenna glowed faintly. Whoever flew that drone knew exactly what they were looking for. I copied the file to my hard drive, uploaded it to an encrypted cloud server, and filed an online report with the FAA, attaching the footage and the note's photo. If Evelyn wanted to play dirty, I'd build a paper trail. Sleep didn't come easy. My mind churned with questions. Why was Evelyn so obsessed with my Wi-Fi? Was it just control, or was there something bigger at play? Trevor's visit, the drone, the probing attempts on my network, it all felt coordinated, like a campaign. By 5 a.m., I gave up on sleep and started digging. I cross-referenced Trevor Lang's name on social media and found his LinkedIn. He was a freelance IT contractor, specializing in community network solutions. His profile photo showed him grinning in front of Evelyn's McMansion, a drone in his hand. Bingo! The guy wasn't just her tech guy, he was her eyes in the sky. At sunrise, I took Juno for a walk along the creek, hoping the fresh air would clear my head. The valley was waking up, the hills bathed in pink light, the air crisp with the promise of fall. But as we neared the property line, Juno froze, her ears perked. Across the creek, Evelyn's glass-walled patio was visible, and there she was, standing with a mug in hand, staring straight at me. Her face was unreadable, but the intensity in her gaze sent a chill down my spine. I waved, forcing a grin, but she didn't move, just stared, like a predator sizing up prey. Back home, I decided to up the ante. If Evelyn wanted a signal war, I'd give her one. I logged into my router and renamed the Wi-Fi again. Evelyn Spy Cam 503. The 503 error code was a nod to service unavailable, a subtle jab at her failing tactics. Then I tweaked the Honeypot network, free HOA Wi-Fi, to redirect any connecting device to a mock login page that logged their metadata. If Trevor or Evelyn tried again, I'd have their device IDs, IP addresses, and maybe even a browser fingerprint. That afternoon, I drove to the hardware store in town to buy motion sensor floodlights. The clerk, a grizzled guy named Pete, noticed my haul: lights, trail cameras, and a heavy-duty lockbox. "You expecting trouble out there, son?" he asked, ringing me up. "Not expecting," I said. "Just preparing." He chuckled. "Heard you're tangling with Evelyn Harper. Word's getting around. Watch your back. She's got half the town council in her pocket." I frowned. "The council?" "She's got that kind of pull." Pete leaned in, lowering his voice. "Her husband's a retired county supervisor. They've got connections. And money. That McMansion didn't build itself." The drive home was tense. Evelyn wasn't just a nosy neighbor. She was a power broker. I spent the evening installing the floodlights around the farmhouse and orchard, wiring them to a central alarm system I could monitor from my phone. The trail cameras went up in the trees, angled to catch any movement near the creek or the attic. If that drone came back, I'd have high-res footage. Juno watched me work, her tail wagging like she approved of the fortress I was building. By nightfall, I was exhausted but wired. I grilled a burger, the sizzle of meat grounding me, and sat on the porch with Juno at my feet. The new floodlights cast stark beams across the yard, turning the darkness into a stage. I was halfway through my burger when my phone buzzed. A router alert. A device had connected to free HOA Wi-Fi and triggered the mock login page. The metadata was gold: device type, operating system, even a partial geolocation. It was coming from Evelyn's property, and the device was a tablet, same model Trevor had been holding. I grinned, but the victory was short-lived. At 11:37 p.m., the floodlights blazed to life, and Juno bolted upright, barking furiously. I grabbed my phone and opened the camera app. The feed showed a figure in a hoodie moving along the creek, carrying what looked like a small toolbox. The figure paused, looked up at the camera, and froze. Even in the grainy night vision, I recognized the goatee. Trevor. He dropped the toolbox and sprinted back toward the creek, vanishing into the shadows. I ran outside, flashlight in one hand, bat in the other. The toolbox was still there, half open, revealing a jumble of wires, a signal jammer, and a handwritten note. Last warning. Shut it down. My blood ran cold. A jammer could knock out my Wi-Fi, my cameras, even my phone signal if it was strong enough. This wasn't a prank. It was sabotage. I bagged the toolbox and called the sheriff's non-emergency line. Deputy Alvarez, a calm woman with a no-nonsense voice, promised to send someone out in the morning. Keep everything as is, she said, and stay safe. We've had complaints about that HOA before. I barely slept, my mind replaying Trevor's face in the camera feed. Evelyn wasn't just watching me. She was trying to cripple my connection to the outside world. But why? What was she hiding that my Wi-Fi threatened? As dawn broke, I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't turning off my signal. I was doubling down. The morning after Trevor's midnight run, I was up before the sun, brewing coffee strong enough to wake a coma patient. Juno was restless, circling the kitchen as if she sensed the storm brewing. The toolbox sat on my counter, sealed in its plastic bag, the note's words glaring up at me. Last warning. Shut it down. I wasn't just angry now, I was resolute. Evelyn and Trevor had crossed a line, and I wasn't about to let them scare me off my own land. Deputy Alvarez arrived at 8 a.m., her cruiser kicking up dust as it rolled down my drive. She was in her 40s, with a sharp jaw and eyes that missed nothing. I handed her the bagged toolbox and showed her the camera footage on my tablet. She watched in silence, her expression unreadable, until Trevor's face appeared in the night vision. That's Trevor Lang, she said, jotting a note. He's been on our radar before. Minor stuff, vandalism, noise complaints. Nothing like this, though. What about Evelyn Harper? I asked, pouring her a coffee. Alvarez sighed. She's a pain, but slippery. Always stays just inside the law. We've had calls about her HOA, intimidation, fake fines, but no hard evidence. This, she tapped the tablet, is something else. Trespassing, attempted sabotage. We can work with this. She took the toolbox and note, promising to log them as evidence. I'll talk to Trevor today, she said. But don't expect him to roll over. If Evelyn's behind this, she'll have him lawyered up by noon. As she drove off, I felt a flicker of hope. The sheriff's department was on my side, at least for now. But Pete's warning about Evelyn's connections nagged at me. If she had the town council in her pocket, a small-time deputy might not be enough. I needed more leverage. I spent the morning fortifying my defenses. I installed a backup router in a lockbox under the floorboards, wired to a separate power source. If Evelyn's crew knocked out my main signal, I'd still have a lifeline. I also set up a script to auto-upload my camera feeds to the cloud every hour, ensuring nothing could be erased. Then I checked the honeypot logs. Trevor's tablet had tried the fake network again at 3 a.m. after his failed jammer drop. The guy was persistent, I'd give him that. Around noon, I got a call from Maggie at the diner. Dan, you've got trouble, she said, her voice low. Evelyn's been in here, talking to some suits from the council. They were asking about you, your property, your Wi-Fi. She's spinning a story that you're running an illegal broadcast tower. I gripped the phone. Illegal? My setup's FCC compliant. I've got the permits. I know, but she's loud, and people listen. Be careful. She's got a knack for twisting truth. I thanked Maggie and hung up, my mind racing. Evelyn wasn't just coming after my network. She was building a narrative to turn the town against me. I needed to know why. I opened my laptop and dug deeper into the HOA's records, focusing on their Skynet network. A cached version of their website mentioned a community broadband initiative funded by a private grant. The grantor's name was buried in fine print. Harper Ventures, LLC. Evelyn's company, or her husband's. The pieces were starting to fit. Skynet wasn't just a Wi-Fi network, it was a business, and my signal was a threat to their monopoly. That afternoon, I walked the property with Juno, checking the new cameras. As we passed the creek, I noticed something odd, a small plastic box half buried in the mud, its antenna barely visible. I pried it open with a stick. Inside was a cheap Wi-Fi repeater, broadcasting a weak signal named Skynet Relay 7. It was boosting Evelyn's network, illegally parked on my land. I bagged it and added it to my evidence pile, but the discovery left me uneasy. How many of these were out there? Was Evelyn's entire network built on trespassing? That night, I renamed my Wi-Fi again. Evelyn's illegal relay 403. The 403 code meant forbidden, a direct shot at her overreach. I expected retaliation, but not so soon. At 1:14 a.m., my phone buzzed with a motion alert. The camera by the creek showed two figures, both in hoodies, tampering with my fence. One held a crowbar, prying at the posts. The other was Trevor, unmistakable with his goatee, spraying paint over the camera lens. I hit the floodlight trigger, and the yard lit up like a stadium. They bolted, but not before the camera caught a clear shot of Trevor's face and the crowbar guy's jacket, emblazoned with Harper Ventures. I called Alvarez again, uploading the footage in real time. "They're escalating," I said. "This isn't just about Wi-Fi. They're trying to mark their territory." She was grim. "Stay put. I'm sending a unit now." As I waited, I sat with Juno, my bat across my lap. The valley felt like a trap now, its beauty hiding a war I hadn't asked for. Evelyn wasn't just a control freak. She was protecting something, maybe her network, maybe her empire. And I was the one standing in her way. The sheriff's unit didn't show until 2:30 a.m., 2 deputies in a dusty cruiser pulling up under the glow of my floodlights. Juno barked once, then quieted as I stepped outside to meet them. Deputy Alvarez was there, alongside a younger officer named Ruiz, who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. I showed them the footage of Trevor and the crowbar guy, handed over the bagged Wi-Fi repeater, and walked them to the damaged fence. The posts were bent, though it splintered where the crowbar had dug in. Alvarez took photos, her flashlight cutting through the dark. "This is serious," she said, crouching by the fence. "Vandalism, trespassing, and that repeater? That's theft of service. We'll bring Trevor in for questioning, but I need you to keep documenting everything." "Already am," I said, tapping my phone. "What about the Harper Ventures jacket?" "That ties it to Evelyn." Ruiz glanced at Alvarez, uneasy. "Harper Ventures is big around here," he said. "They fund half the town's projects, library, rec center, even our dispatch system. If Evelyn's involved, it's complicated." I clenched my jaw. Complicated doesn't mean untouchable. Alvarez nodded. "We'll follow the evidence, Dan." But Ruiz is right. The Harpers have influence. Stay sharp and don't do anything rash. They left with the repeater and a promise to update me, but their words echoed Pete's warning. Evelyn wasn't just a bully. She was a kingpin. I spent the rest of the night reviewing footage, my eyes burning from lack of sleep. The crowbar guy's face was too shadowed to ID, but the jacket was a lead. I searched Harper Ventures online and found their website, a glossy front for real estate, tech investments, and community development. Evelyn's husband, Richard Harper, was listed as CEO, his photo showing a silver-haired man with a politician's smile. The deeper I dug, the murkier it got. Forum posts hinted at shady deals, land grabs, pressured sales, even a lawsuit over a foreclosed farm. Was Skynet a front for something bigger? The next day, I headed to the diner for a break and some answers. Maggie was wiping down the counter when I walked in, the smell of bacon and syrup thick in the air. I slid into a booth, and she brought me coffee without asking. "You look like hell," she said, sitting across from me. "Evelyn's got you running ragged, huh?" "She's trying," I said, showing her a screenshot of the damaged fence. "Her tech guy and some goon hit my property last night, and I found one of her repeaters on my land." Maggie's face darkened. "That's low, even for her. You know why she's so hell-bent on that network, don't you?" I leaned forward. "Tell me." She glanced around, ensuring no one was listening. "Skynet's not just Wi-Fi. It's a data hub. Evelyn's been pitching it to the county as a smart community: cameras, sensors, the works. They're collecting data on everyone, internet habits, traffic patterns, even power usage. Harper Ventures sells it to advertisers, maybe worse. Your signal's a problem because it's outside their control. They can't monitor you." My stomach twisted. "That's dystopian." "Yep. And the council's eating it up because Harper Ventures funds their campaigns. You're not just fighting Evelyn. You're fighting a machine." I left the diner with a to-go coffee and a new resolve. If Skynet was a surveillance network, my Wi-Fi was a wrench in their gears. Back home, I renamed my signal to Skynet Snoops 429, a nod to the too many requests error, implying Evelyn's overreach was crashing her system. I also posted an anonymous thread on a local Reddit sub, Willow Creek Talk, detailing the repeater and the vandalism without naming myself. I included a blurred screenshot of Trevor's face, asking if anyone recognized him. Within hours, comments poured in. "That's Evelyn's tech guy. HOA's been pulling this crap for years." One user, Valley Ghost, DM'd me. "Check the old quarry. That's where they test their drones." The quarry was a half-mile from my property, an abandoned pit surrounded by pines. I drove out at dusk, Juno in the passenger seat, her nose pressed to the window. The quarry was eerie, its cliffs casting long shadows. I parked and hiked to the edge, staying low. Sure enough, I heard the hum of drones, 3 of them, buzzing in formation. A man stood below, tablet in hand. Trevor. I snapped photos, my heart racing. This wasn't just about my Wi-Fi. Evelyn was building an empire, and I was the only one standing in her way. That night, my floodlights triggered again. The camera showed a single figure dropping a package by my gate before vanishing. I waited until dawn to check it. A dead router, its circuits fried, with a note. Next time, it's your power. I called Alvarez, but my gut told me this was far from over. The dead router stared up at me from the kitchen table, its melted circuits a grim warning. The note, next time, it's your power, wasn't just a threat. It was a promise. Evelyn and her crew were done with subtle jabs. They were aiming for my lifeline, and in a rural valley where cell service was a cruel joke, losing power meant losing everything, my work, my security, my connection to the world. Juno sensed my unease, her head resting on my knee as I sipped cold coffee, plotting my next move. I called Deputy Alvarez first thing, sending her photos of the router and note. She was curt. We pulled Trevor in for questioning, but he's claiming he was home all night. No alibi, but no confession either. We're still processing the repeater and toolbox. Sit tight, Dan. Sitting tight wasn't my style. I drove to the hardware store again, this time for a backup generator and a surge protector for my main power line. Pete was there, his eyes widening at my cart. You building a bunker out there? He joked, then sobered when he saw my face. Evelyn's really got you spooked, huh? Not spooked, I said. Prepared. She's threatening my power now. Pete whistled. That's bold, even for her. You know her husband's got a stake in the local utility co-op, right? They've been pushing smart meters on everyone. Some folks think it's tied to Skynet. The utility co-op. Another piece of the puzzle. Back home, I checked my power meter. Sure enough, it was a smart model, installed before I bought the place. I hadn't thought twice about it, but Maggie's words about Skynet's data collection rang in my head. Was Evelyn monitoring my usage? I wrapped the meter in a Faraday cage, a makeshift shield of aluminum mesh, to block its signal. It was a long shot, but I wasn't taking chances. That afternoon, I hiked to the quarry again, this time with a telephoto lens. Trevor was there, calibrating drones with another man, tall, bald, wearing the same Harper Ventures jacket from the fence attack. I snapped photos, catching the bald guy's face clearly. Back at the house, I ran a facial recognition tool I'd built for a client years ago. The match came up fast. Carl Dempsey, a contractor for Harper Ventures, with a rap sheet for petty theft and assault. Evelyn wasn't just hiring techies, she was recruiting muscle. I renamed my Wi-Fi to Harper's Goons 451, a nod to Fahrenheit 451, implying Evelyn was burning away freedom. The Reddit thread I'd started was blowing up, with locals sharing their own HOA horror stories. Valley Ghost DM'd again. Found another repeater near the old mill. Want me to grab it? I hesitated. Teaming up with a stranger was risky, but I needed allies. I replied, bag it, but don't touch it directly. Meet me at the diner tomorrow. That night, I was jolted awake by a power surge. The lights flickered, and my router rebooted. Juno barked, her ears pinned back. I checked the surge protector, it had caught the spike, saving my system. The camera feed showed nothing, but the smart meter's signal was active again, despite the Faraday cage. Someone had tampered with it remotely. I called the utility co-op, demanding an explanation, but the rep was cagey. Could be a glitch, she said. We'll send a tech tomorrow. The tech never came. Instead, I got a certified letter from the HOA claiming my unauthorized modifications to the power meter violated county codes. The letter demanded I remove the Faraday cage or face a $5,000 fine. I laughed, then faxed a copy to Alvarez with a note. They're watching my power now. This is harassment. The next day, I met Valley Ghost at the diner. He was a lanky kid, maybe 20, with a hoodie and a nervous grin. His real name was Ethan, a community college student who'd been hacking local networks for fun. He handed me a bagged repeater, identical to the one on my land. Found it by the mill, he said. Evelyn's got these all over the valley. I think they're mapping everyone's data. I bought him a coffee and shared my theory about Skynet surveillance. Ethan's eyes lit up. I can help, he said. I've got a sniffer that can trace their signals. Want me to run it? I nodded, but warned him to stay anonymous. Evelyn's not playing. Keep it quiet. That night, my power cut out completely. The generator kicked in, but the cameras caught a figure fleeing the utility pole by the road. I was done waiting for the sheriff. It was time to fight fire with fire. The power outage left me rattled, but the generator's hum was a lifeline. Juno paced the living room, her eyes glinting in the dim light as I checked the camera footage. The figure at the utility pole was too blurry to ID, but the timing, hours after the HOA's letter, pointed to Evelyn's crew. I restored power by dawn, but the message was clear. They could hit me where it hurt. I wasn't just defending my Wi-Fi anymore. I was defending my home. I called Alvarez, sending the footage and a photo of the cut power line. She was frustrated. We're stretched thin, Dan. Trevor's out on bail, and we can't tie the vandalism directly to Evelyn yet. Keep your cameras rolling. We're building a case. Building a case wasn't enough. I needed to hit back, hard. I met Ethan at the diner again, this time in a corner booth away from prying ears. He slid a USB drive across the table. Ran the sniffer, he said, his voice low. Skynet's got at least 12 repeaters across the valley, all broadcasting encrypted data to a server in Evelyn's house. I cracked one packet, its logging keystrokes, browser history, even smart home commands. I stared at him. That's illegal. Like, federal-level illegal. Yep, but they're routing it through a VPN to mask the source. If we can find the main server, we can prove it's Harper Ventures. I took the USB and promised to keep Ethan out of it. Back home, I analyzed the data. The packet showed Skynet was indeed a surveillance beast, scraping everything from Amazon purchases to thermostat settings. My signal, free of their control, was a blind spot in their net. No wonder Evelyn was desperate to shut me down. I renamed my Wi-Fi to Skynet's Watching 418, a teapot error, mocking their overreach. Then I built a new honeypot, this one broadcasting a fake IT device signal, like a smart fridge. If Trevor bit, I'd feed him junk data to clog their server. Sure enough, by evening, the honeypot logged a hit. Trevor's tablet was slurping up fake fridge stats, thinking it was gold. But Evelyn wasn't idle. That afternoon, a county inspector showed up, claiming my router's antenna violated zoning codes. He was nervous, avoiding eye contact, and left when I showed him my FCC permits. I called Alvarez, who confirmed the inspection was requested by Harper Ventures. Evelyn was weaponizing bureaucracy now. I needed allies beyond Ethan. I reached out to the Reddit thread, asking for locals to share Skynet complaints anonymously. A woman named Clara responded, saying her smart doorbell had been hacked after joining Skynet. She'd seen Trevor near her house the day it happened. Another user, Creekwatcher, claimed their thermostat spiked to 90 degrees Fahrenheit during a heat wave, costing them hundreds in repairs. The stories piled up, painting a picture of systemic abuse. That night, I set a trap. I rigged a motion-triggered paint sprayer by the utility pole, loaded with neon green dye. If Evelyn's goons came back, they'd leave glowing. At 3 a.m., the sprayer fired, and the camera caught Carl Dempsey, the bald contractor, drenched in paint as he fled. I laughed, uploading the footage to the cloud. Alvarez was thrilled when I sent it. That's assault and vandalism, she said. We're picking him up now. But the victory was bittersweet. As I celebrated with a beer, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. You're making enemies, Carter. Back off. The area code was local. Evelyn was getting personal. The text message, you're making enemies, Carter. Back off, sat like a stone in my gut. I traced the number, but it was a burner, unlisted. Evelyn was escalating, and the anonymity made it worse. Was it her? Trevor? Carl? Or someone higher up the Harper Ventures food chain? I forwarded the text to Alvarez, but my focus shifted to the bigger picture. Skynet wasn't just Evelyn's pet project, it was a surveillance empire, and the valley was waking up to it. I met Clara, the doorbell hack victim, at the diner the next morning. She was in her 60s, with kind eyes and a nervous habit of twisting her wedding ring. I didn't know what Skynet was doing, she said, her voice trembling. They offered free Wi-Fi, said it'd make the neighborhood safer. Then my doorbell started recording me inside my house. I saw Trevor fiddling with a box by my gate the day it happened. I showed her the repeater from my land. Her eyes widened. That's it. There's one by my driveway, too. Clara agreed to file a complaint with Alvarez, and I connected her with Ethan, who promised to scan her network for intrusions. The Reddit thread was now a rallying point, with dozens of locals sharing stories of Skynet's overreach, hacked baby monitors, spiked utility bills, even a car's GPS rerouting to Evelyn's house. I organized a group chat for the most active users, calling it Valley Resistance. It was risky, but I needed a coalition. That afternoon, I renamed my Wi-Fi to Skynet Secrets 410, a gone error, hinting their scheme was unraveling. Ethan sent me a new data packet, showing Skynet's server was pinging a cloud service tied to a data brokerage firm. Harper Ventures wasn't just selling ads. They were trafficking personal data, likely without consent. I forwarded the evidence to a contact at a tech blog, TechBit, who promised to investigate. But Evelyn struck back fast. A cease and desist letter arrived from Harper Ventures' lawyer, accusing me of defamation and interfering with a legitimate business. It demanded I remove my Reddit posts and rename my Wi-Fi, or face a lawsuit. I faxed it to Alvarez, who laughed. "They're scared," she said. "Carl's in custody, and Trevor's sweating. Keep pushing." I did. I posted the letter to Reddit, redacting my name, and the thread exploded. Valley Resistance grew to 50 members, including a retired lawyer, Helen, who offered to draft a class action complaint against Skynet. We met at the diner, a makeshift war room, and planned to file with the state attorney general. Helen's eyes gleamed. "Evelyn's been untouchable too long. This ends now." That night, my cameras caught a new drone, this one larger, hovering over the orchard. I activated a signal jammer I'd bought legally for testing, and the drone wobbled, then crashed into a tree. I retrieved it at dawn, finding a Harper Ventures logo on the casing. Inside was a hard drive with footage of my property and Clarice, Ethan's, and others in the group chat. Skynet was targeting us all. I called Alvarez, who sent a forensics team to collect the drone. "This is big," she said. "We're looping in the FBI. Data theft on this scale is federal." As I hung up, my phone buzzed with another text. "You can't hide, Carter." I stared at it, Juno growling at my side. The valley was a battlefield now, but I wasn't alone anymore. The FBI's involvement changed everything. Alvarez called me at 7 a.m., her voice tight. "Agent Kessler's taking lead on the Skynet case," she said. "He wants to meet you today. Can you come to the station?" I drove to the sheriff's office, Juno in the back seat, her presence a small comfort. The station was a low brick building, buzzing with activity. Agent Kessler was in his 50s, with a crew cut and a handshake like a vice. He led me to a conference room, where Alvarez and a tech analyst, Priya, waited. Kessler didn't waste time. "Your evidence, cameras, repeaters, drone footage blew this wide open," he said, spreading photos across the table. "Skynet's not just a local scam. Harper Ventures is linked to a national data brokerage network, selling personal info to marketers, insurers, even political firms. Your Wi-Fi's a problem because it's untraceable. They can't harvest you." I nodded, my mind racing. "What's the play?" "We're raiding Evelyn's house tomorrow," Kessler said. "We've got a warrant for her server. But we need you to keep pushing, draw her out. She's rattled, and rattled people make mistakes." I agreed, though the weight of it hit hard. I was a cybersecurity guy, not a vigilante. But Evelyn had made this personal. Back home, I renamed my Wi-Fi to FBI Watches Skynet 200 OK code, taunting her with the Fed's gaze. Ethan sent me a new sniffer report. Skynet's server was overloading, likely from my honeypot's junk data. Trevor was scrambling to patch it, but he was sloppy, leaving digital footprints everywhere. That afternoon, I met the Valley Resistance at the diner. Clara, Helen, Ethan, and a dozen others crowded into booths, their faces a mix of fear and defiance. Helen had drafted the class action complaint, citing privacy violations and harassment. "We're filing tomorrow," she said. But Evelyn's lawyer's already threatening countersuits. "She's desperate." Clara spoke up, her voice steady now. "I found another repeater by my mailbox. And my neighbor saw Trevor's van parked nearby last night." I shared the FBI's plan, keeping Kessler's name out. The group buzzed with hope, but Ethan was nervous. If they're raiding her, she'll burn everything: servers, drives, all of it. He was right. I needed to act fast. That night, I hacked into Skynet's public-facing portal, legally, using a vulnerability Ethan had flagged. I downloaded a partial database, names, addresses, and data points on every Skynet user. It was a goldmine, and I sent it to Kessler, encrypted. But Evelyn wasn't done. At midnight, my generator sputtered, and the power cut again. The cameras caught Carl, out of custody on bail, tampering with the utility pole. I hit the paint sprayer, dousing him in red this time. He cursed, fleeing, but the damage was done. My generator's fuel line was cut. I called Alvarez, who arrested Carl again, but the message was clear. Evelyn was fighting to the end. As I patched the generator, a new text arrived. "You'll regret this, Carter." I ignored it, but Juno's growl told me the night wasn't over. The FBI raid hit Evelyn's McMansion at dawn. I watched from my porch, Juno at my side, as black SUVs rolled down the valley road, their lights slicing through the morning mist. The Reddit thread was ablaze with speculation, locals posting blurry photos of agents swarming Evelyn's glass-walled fortress. I renamed my Wi-Fi to Skynet's in-game 410, a gone error code, signaling the collapse of her empire. But my stomach churned. Evelyn was cornered, and cornered animals fight hardest. Alvarez called at 9 a.m. They got the server, she said, her voice a mix of triumph and exhaustion. Tons of data, years of surveillance. Evelyn's in custody, but she's claiming it's all Richard's doing. Trevor's talking, trying to cut a deal. Carl's not saying a word, but we've got him on vandalism and assault. What about the data? I asked, pacing the kitchen. Juno's ears perked at my tone. It's a goldmine, Alvarez said. Names, addresses, browsing histories, even medical records from smart devices. Harper Ventures was selling it to data brokers, insurers, you name it. The FBI's tracing the money now. Your evidence, cameras, repeaters, that drone, nailed it. I exhaled, relief warring with dread. So, it's over? Not yet. Evelyn's got lawyers circling like sharks. And Richard's MIA, skipped town last night. Stay vigilant, Dan. I hung up, my mind spinning. Richard Harper, the silver-haired CEO, was the puppet master, or so Evelyn claimed. Was she throwing him under the bus, or was he the real architect of Skynet? I checked the Valley Resistance group chat. Clara was ecstatic. Helen was drafting a press release for the class action suit, and Ethan was already sniffing for Richard's digital trail. Found his email on a dark web forum, Ethan messaged. He's been shopping encrypted drives. Might be in Reno. I thanked him but urged caution. Ethan was eager, but he was a kid, and Richard sounded dangerous. I spent the morning reinforcing my defenses, installing a new generator, and wiring a backup battery for the cameras. The power outages had taught me one thing: redundancy was survival. I also tweaked the honeypot, now broadcasting a fake smart meter signal to bait any remaining Skynet operatives. If Richard was still pulling strings, I'd catch his lackeys. That afternoon, Maggie called from the diner. Town's buzzing, she said. Evelyn's arrest is all anyone's talking about. Some folks are cheering, but others, her cronies, are spitting mad. Watch your back, Dan. They're saying you're the one who brought the feds. I grimaced. Great. Now I'm the Valley's most wanted. You're a hero to some, she said. Come by later. I'll save you a slice of pie. I laughed, but the weight of her words lingered. Evelyn's allies, council members, utility co-op execs, maybe even neighbors, weren't going to let this go quietly. I drove to the hardware store for more trail cameras, spotting a familiar face in the parking lot. Pete, the clerk, loading a truck with wire. He waved me over. Heard about the raid, he said, wiping sweat from his brow. You stirred up a hornet's nest, son. Evelyn's got friends in high places, and they don't like losing. Any names? I asked, leaning against my truck. He glanced around, then lowered his voice. Councilman Vega. He's tight with Richard, gets campaign cash from Harper Ventures. Rumor is, he's pushing to rezone your land for community use. Says your orchard's a fire hazard. My blood ran cold. They're trying to take my property? Not yet, but they're scheming. Vega's got a meeting tonight at the rec center. Might be worth a listen. I thanked Pete and headed home, my mind racing. Rezoning was a power play, a way to force me into Skynet's orbit or drive me out. I renamed my Wi-Fi to Vega's Land Grab 403, a forbidden error, calling out the councilman's scheme. Then I prepped for the rec center meeting, packing a recorder and a small camera hidden in a pin. If Vega was plotting, I'd catch it on tape. The rec center was packed that evening, a sea of folding chairs and tense faces. I slipped in late, keeping to the back. Vega, a stocky man with a slick smile, stood at the podium, railing about rogue residents disrupting the valley's progress. Certain properties, he said, glancing my way, pose risks to our smart community vision. We're exploring rezoning to protect everyone. The crowd murmured, some nodding, others frowning. Evelyn's arrest had split the town, half saw her as a tyrant, half as a victim. I recorded every word, my pin camera catching Vega's smirk. A woman next to me, gray-haired and sharp-eyed, whispered, "You're the Wi-Fi guy, aren't you? Keep fighting. Evelyn's goons trashed my garden last year." I nodded, slipping her my burner email. The resistance was growing. That night, my floodlights triggered at 2 a.m. The camera showed a figure in a ski mask slashing my truck's tires. Juno barked, waking the valley, and the figure fled. I called Alvarez, but the damage was done, 4 flats, and a note under the wiper. Leave, Carter. I stood in the dark, Juno at my side, the valley's beauty now a mask for betrayal. Evelyn was in cuffs, but her war was far from over. The slashed tires were a gut punch, but they lit a fire in me. I wasn't leaving. This was my land, my home, and Evelyn's cronies, Richard, Vega, whoever was pulling strings, weren't going to bully me out. I called a tow truck at dawn, the driver shaking his head as he loaded my truck. Heard you're tangling with the Harpers, he said. Brave, but dumb. They own this valley. Not my corner of it, I said, handing him a tip. Juno watched from the porch, her eyes scanning the road. I could feel her tension, mirroring mine. The valley wasn't just divided. It was a powder keg, and I was the spark. Alvarez met me at the sheriff's station to take the tire slashing report. She looked exhausted, her uniform rumpled. FBI's digging through Evelyn's server, she said. They found encrypted files linked to Richard's offshore accounts. He's not just a CEO, he's a money launderer. Evelyn's singing now, trying to save herself. I showed her the rec center recording. Vega's pushing to rezone my land. Think it's tied to Richard? She nodded. Likely. Harper Ventures has been snapping up properties for years, rezoning them for tech parks or condos. Your orchard's prime real estate. Stay sharp, Dan. Vega's got muscle. I spent the morning at the diner, meeting the Valley Resistance. Clara brought her neighbor, Tom, a retired electrician who'd found a Skynet repeater in his backyard. Helen had filed the class action suit, and TechBit published a scathing expose on Skynet, citing my anonymous tips. The article went viral, trending on X with hashtags like #SkynetScandal and #WillowCreekFights. Ethan hacked a digital billboard on the highway, flashing Skynet spies on you, until the county shut it down. The kid was bold, but I worried he was painting a target on his back. Back home, I renamed my Wi-Fi to Richard's Runaway 404, not found jab at his disappearance. The honeypot logged a new hit, a laptop trying to scrape my fake smart meter data. The IP traced to a motel in Reno. Richard? I sent the info to Kessler, who confirmed they were closing in on him. He's sloppy, Kessler said. Left a trail of burner phones. We'll have him soon. That afternoon, I found a flyer taped to my gate, printed on Harper Ventures' letterhead, public hearing, rezoning proposal for Carter property. The date was a week away. Vega was moving fast. I posted the flyer to Reddit, rallying the resistance to pack the hearing. Clara organized a petition, gathering 200 signatures in hours. The town was splitting, Evelyn's loyalists versus the resistance, and I was the lightning rod. That night, I hosted a strategy session at the farmhouse. Clara, Helen, Ethan, Tom, and Maggie crowded my kitchen. Juno sprawled at their feet. Helen outlined the hearing plan. We'll present the petition, the Skynet evidence, and your footage. Vega's rezoning won't stand if we expose Harper Ventures' crimes. Ethan suggested live streaming the hearing to X, ensuring the world watched. I agreed, setting up a secure server to handle the feed. At midnight, my cameras caught a new figure, a woman, not Evelyn, tossing a Molotov cocktail at my orchard. The flames caught dry grass, but my sprinklers doused it before it spread. Juno's barks woke me, and I hit the floodlights, catching the woman's face, Linda Vega, the councilman's wife. I sent the footage to Alvarez and Kessler, my hands shaking. This wasn't just a land grab. It was arson. Alvarez arrested Linda by morning, but Vega issued a public statement, calling me a disruptive outsider and vowing to protect the valley. The Reddit thread exploded, with locals picketing Vega's office. I stood on my porch, Juno at my side, watching the valley burn with rage. The hearing was coming, and it would decide everything. The rezoning hearing was a circus. The rec center was packed, standing room only, with TV crews from Sacramento parked outside. The Valley Resistance filled half the seats, their petition, now 500 signatures strong, stacked on a table. Vegas supporters, a mix of Harper Ventures suits and HOA loyalists, glared from the other side. I sat in the front row, Juno at home, but her spirit with me, my pin camera rolling. Ethan was in the back, live streaming to X, where #WillowCreekFights was trending globally. Vega opened the hearing, his voice oily. This proposal ensures our valley's future, he said, projecting a map that marked my orchard as a community tech hub. He painted me as a recluse, hoarding resources and endangering safety with my rogue signal. The crowd murmured, some clapping, others booing. I clenched my fists, waiting for my turn. Helen spoke first, her voice steady as she presented the petition and Skynet's crimes. Harper Ventures has spied on this town for years, she said, holding up a repeater. They've hacked our homes, sold our data, and targeted anyone who resisted, like Daniel Carter. The resistance cheered, and Vega's smirk faltered. I took the podium next, my heart pounding but my voice calm. I moved here for peace, I said, but Evelyn Harper and her allies turned my home into a war zone. I played the footage, Trevor's vandalism, Carl's paint-soaked retreat, Linda's Molotov cocktail. The room gasped. This isn't about rezoning. It's about control. They want my land because my Wi-Fi's free of their surveillance. I'm not the threat. They are. The crowd erupted, resistance members chanting no Skynet. Vega pounded his gavel, but the chaos grew. Then a voice cut through, a man in a suit, stepping to the mic. Richard Harper. The room fell silent. He was back, his silver hair gleaming, his smile defiant. This is a witch hunt, he said. Daniel Carter's a liar, and his evidence is fabricated. Harper Ventures is a victim of his cyber attacks. I stared, stunned. He was doubling down, rewriting the narrative. But I was ready. I plugged my laptop into the projector and played the drone footage, showing Richard's logo and the hack data. This is your empire, I said. And it's crumbling. The resistance roared, and Vega's face turned ashen. The hearing ended in chaos, the rezoning vote postponed. Richard was escorted out by Kessler's agents, arrested on money laundering and data theft charges. Vega resigned that night, his career in tatters. The Reddit thread hit 1 million views, and TechBit's follow-up story named me, against my wishes, as the Wi-Fi warrior. I didn't feel like a hero. I felt exposed. That night, my cameras caught a final act, a Harper Ventures van dumping trash on my lawn. I let it go, too tired to fight. The valley was healing, but the scars remained. The valley exhaled after the hearing, but the air was still thick with tension. Evelyn and Richard were in federal custody, facing charges from data theft to money laundering. Trevor took a plea deal, spilling everything about Skynet's operations, while Carl awaited trial for vandalism and arson. The HOA was in shambles, its board dissolved, and the class action suit gained traction, with hundreds joining. Skynet's repeaters were dismantled, and Harper Ventures' assets were frozen. I should have felt victorious, but the Wi-Fi warrior label made me a target. Every creak in the farmhouse set Juno on edge, and I wasn't far behind. I renamed my Wi-Fi to Valley Free 200, a nod to freedom and a clean slate. The Reddit thread slowed, but the resistance stayed active, planning to rebuild the HOA as a true community group. Clara and Helen took the lead, while Ethan enrolled in a cybersecurity program, inspired by our fight. Maggie sent me a pie, apple of course, with a note. You did good, Dan. Now rest. But rest was a luxury I couldn't afford. A week after the hearing, I found a letter in my mailbox, no stamp, just my name in block letters. Inside was a single sentence. You think it's over, but we're watching. No signature, but the paper smelled faintly of cigar smoke, a detail that nagged at me. I scanned it for prints, finding none, and sent a photo to Kessler. Could be a crank, he said, but don't ignore it. Richard had partners we haven't nailed yet. The letter wasn't the only sign. My honeypot logged a new intrusion, a sophisticated probe, not Trevor's clumsy handiwork. The IP traced to a server in San Francisco, tied to a shell company, Nexus Data Solutions. A quick search linked Nexus to a venture capital firm that had funded Harper Ventures. The war wasn't over, it had just moved up the food chain. I drove to the diner to clear my head, finding Maggie at the counter. You look like you're carrying the valley on your shoulders, she said, pouring coffee. Someone's still out there, I said, showing her the letter. Richard's partners, maybe. They're not done with me. She frowned. You've got friends now, Dan. Don't carry this alone. I nodded, but the weight didn't lift. Back home, I fortified the farmhouse, adding steel shutters and a panic button linked to the sheriff. Juno patrolled the orchard, her nose catching scents I couldn't. That night, my cameras caught a black SUV idling by the gate, no plates visible. It sat for 10 minutes, then drove off. I sent the footage to Kessler, who promised to run it. Could be Nexus, he said. They're big players. Stay low. Staying low wasn't my style. I posted an encrypted warning on Reddit, alerting the resistance to Nexus. Ethan traced their server, finding a backdoor that leaked employee emails. One mentioned a Willow Creek cleanup, ominous, but vague. I shared it with Kessler, who escalated the case to a task force. The valley was quiet, but the shadows were moving. As I grilled a steak that evening, Juno growled, her hackles up. I grabbed my flashlight, stepping outside. The air was still, but a faint hum echoed from the hills, a drone, bigger than Trevor's. I aimed my signal jammer, but it didn't falter. This wasn't Skynet. This was Nexus, and they were playing for keeps. The drone's hum was a warning bell, cutting through the valley's stillness. I stood in the orchard, Juno growling at my side, my signal jammer useless against this new beast. Its silhouette was sleek, military-grade, not the hobbyist toys Trevor flew. Nexus Data Solutions wasn't just a shadow player, they were a predator, and I was in their crosshairs. I snapped photos, the flash reflecting off its casing, and retreated to the farmhouse. The war had escalated, and I needed a new playbook. I called Kessler, sending the drone photos. "That's not Skynet," he said, his voice grim. "Nexus has contracts with private security firms. That drone's likely theirs. We're raiding their San Francisco office tomorrow, but you're exposed. Can you leave the valley for a few days?" "Leave?" I scoffed. "This is my home. I'm not running." "Your call," he said. "But install a kill switch for your systems. If they hit, you need to go dark fast." I spent the morning wiring a kill switch to my router, cameras, and generator, a single button that would cut all signals and power, leaving Nexus blind. I also rigged a new trap, a fake server broadcasting a decoy Skynet database, laced with a tracking worm. If Nexus hacked it, I'd have their location. Ethan helped remotely, his coding skills sharpening daily. "This is next level," he said, excited. "You're like a digital ninja." I wasn't feeling ninja-like. The cigar-scented letter, the SUV, the drone, they weighed on me, a constant reminder that Nexus was watching. I renamed my Wi-Fi to Nexus Sees All 429, a taunt, daring them to bite. The honeypot logged a hit by noon, a Nexus server probing the decoy. My worm deployed, pinging back from a data center in Oakland. I sent the coordinates to Kessler, who was floored. "You're doing our job for us," he said. "We're moving on this." That afternoon, I met the resistance at the diner for a final rally. Clara had organized a town hall to elect a new HOA board, free of Harper influence. Helen was pushing the class action suit, now backed by a national law firm. Maggie brought pie, her way of keeping us grounded. But Ethan was jumpy, checking his phone constantly. "Nexus tried to dox me," he whispered. "Got my school email. I'm laying low." I felt a pang of guilt. I'd pulled him into this, and now he was a target. "Stay with Clara for a bit," I said. "She's got a spare room." He nodded, but his eyes were scared. That night, the trap sprung. My cameras caught two figures in tactical gear scaling my fence, armed with bolt cutters and a laptop. Juno's barks woke me, and I hit the floodlights, then the paint sprayer blew this time, coating them head to toe. They froze, blinded, and I activated the kill switch, plunging the farmhouse into darkness. The cameras, on battery backup, recorded everything. One figure dropped the laptop, revealing a Nexus logo. I called Kessler, live streaming the footage to X. The FBI swept in at 3 a.m., arresting the intruders, Nexus contractors, hired to destroy my systems. The worm had led Kessler to their Oakland hub, where agents seized servers packed with Skynet's stolen data. Nexus's CEO, Victor Klein, was indicted, linked to Richard's offshore accounts. The valley erupted in celebration, the resistance toasting at the diner. I stayed home, Juno at my feet, too drained to join. But as I sipped a beer, a final text arrived. "Well played, Carter. We'll meet again." No number, no trace. I stared at it, Juno's growl echoing my unease. The valley was free, but the shadows never sleep. The valley woke to a new rhythm after Nexus's fall. The FBI's raid on their Oakland office dominated headlines, with Victor Klein's indictment tying him to a web of data theft and corporate espionage. Evelyn and Richard Harper pleaded guilty, their empire reduced to courtroom whispers. The class action suit settled, compensating hundreds of Skynet victims, and the new HOA, led by Clara and Helen, vowed transparency. Willow Creek was healing, its scars softening under the autumn sun. I renamed my Wi-Fi one last time. Orchard Haven 200, a return to my original dream, a signal of peace. The farmhouse felt like home again, its creaks familiar, not menacing. Juno patrolled the orchard with a lighter step, chasing rabbits instead of shadows. Maggie's diner became a hub for the resistance, now a community group planting gardens and hosting tech workshops. Ethan thrived in his cybersecurity program, sending me proud updates. "You're my hero, Dan," he wrote, and I smiled, though the Wi-Fi warrior tag still chafed. But the final text, "We'll meet again," lingered like a ghost. Kessler called it a loose end, likely a low-level Nexus operative flexing bravado. "You've got a fortress," he said. Use it. I did, keeping the cameras, kill switch, and backup systems active. The valley was free, but freedom came with vigilance. One morning, as I pruned apple trees, a car pulled up, an old sedan, not an SUV. A woman stepped out, late 60s, with tired eyes and a faint cigar scent. My heart skipped, but she raised her hands. "I'm not here to fight," she said. "I'm Richard's sister, Elaine." I stayed wary, Juno at my side. "What do you want?" She handed me a letter, her hands trembling. "Richard wrote this before, everything. He wanted you to have it." I opened it, the paper heavy with cigar smoke. In tight script, Richard confessed. "You exposed what I built, Carter. I wanted control, not chaos. I'm sorry. No excuses, just raw honesty." Elaine watched me read, her face unreadable. "He's not a monster," she said. "Just a man who lost his way." I folded the letter, unsure how to feel. "Why now?" "He's dying," she said. "Cancer. He won't see trial." This was his last wish. She drove off, leaving me with the letter and a strange peace. Richard's apology didn't erase the war, but it closed a chapter. That evening, I sat on the porch, Juno sprawled at my feet, the valley glowing under a harvest moon. The resistance threw a bonfire at the rec center, but I stayed home, savoring the quiet. My phone buzzed, a Reddit notification. A new thread, Willow Creek's next fight, warned of a telecom giant eyeing the valley. I sighed but grinned. If they came, I'd be ready, with Juno, my cameras, and a Wi-Fi signal that screamed freedom. As the stars flickered, Juno lifted her head, ears perked. A distant rumble echoed. A car, maybe, or just the wind. I patted her, my hand steady. The valley was mine, and I'd fight for it, always.